Hello and welcome to the Live Reality Game Podcast. My name is Steven, and we are back today with another episode recap of Surviving Bloomington. And it was, dare I say, a chaotic episode with a double tribal. But here to help break it down, I have my co-host, Drew. Drew, how are you doing? And congrats on surviving, well, thanks to immunity, this episode.
Yes, thanks to me getting very lucky with a slingshot. Or maybe I'm just skilled at it. But yes, this was a crazy episode to live through. And all season, I've been waiting for this episode and seeing it for the first time. There was so much that happened that I had even forgot happened that made it even better. And one major aspect of this episode, one person who made this episode is our guest, Danny. Hi, Danny.
Hey. Oh my God. I wish it was on better circumstances that I was joining the podcast, but you know what? Like, if this is my first appearance on it, then I'll still take it.
I mean, what a way to go out on a 1-1-1 revote tie. And we'll have to talk about, the rule, like, hey, no strategizing, because I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts of how things would have changed had that happened, but we will definitely get there.
Yeah.
But I figured we should go through more of your story leading up to this episode, because we were talking before, the winner's curse. You only go to 2 of the pre-merge trial councils, so I think that's the minimum number anyone went to, and so we don't get to see you as much as a result due to your challenge prowess. So can you kind of talk us through the pre-merge and who you were landing with and how you were feeling as it evolved?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I kind of think I was realizing that also while I was playing the game, that like the more you win, while yes, like I'm advancing to another round, I'm still going to be here, you don't have a chance to really test those like relationships. So in most of my confessionals, I'm just talking about who I'm working with. From the start, I felt very good about Kim and Rachel. Like that was something I made on day one with them, like at the water well. I was just getting a good read from them, and I knew that either they would be picked up by a lot of people in the tribe or no one would want to align with them. So I wanted to make sure that I was one of the first people to have a conversation with them. It turns out it works to my benefit, because I don't know what possesses Marshawn to then come up with some lie that I'm targeting them. First off, Kim is immune, and I am way too savvy of a fan to pitch someone's name who can't go home. So stuff just wasn't adding up, and that gave me a really easy first target on our tribe. However, we continue to win. So while I'm doing this, I still want to build other relationships, and I think that's where my relationship with Drew and Brady really took off. I think those were people that I would naturally connect with outside of the game, so it was very easy for us to just always look like we were a trio. And honestly, I'd rather have been lumped in with them, because then people didn't see that I was working with Rachel and Kim. But then we get to the swap. And
wait, Danny, I have a question.
Yes.
I need confirmation on my thoughts on this. What do you think would have happened if the original Chaos Tribe had to go to Tribal?
I think if we had to go to Tribal Council, I really do feel like Marshawn's name would have been out there. It was already just coming out that Marshawn was somebody that was causing a lot of chaos. Didn't really seem like they had a lot of like close relationships with people on our tribe, but was someone that people liked having around camp. So I think their name would have come up. I think Rachel would have been an easy name to come up, because people always were saying that Rachel was weak, but I don't really think that was the case. I really just feel like Rachel wasn't the person to be like, put me in, like, I'm going to like, put me in, I'm going to do this. Like she's going to go where.
Yeah, that perception was because Rachel was sitting out a lot of the challenges, or like volunteering to do maybe the like less intense parts of the challenges. And I was like, that doesn't make her weak. She just knows.
No, and good for her. Like, you don't want to put yourself in the hero position. So anyways, then we landed up with all of those, and I feel like if we had to vote, though, it would come down to the 2 of them. But I really do think people would have pushed heavy for like Marshawn to go, and I know Kim probably would not have wanted to go for that, but in an early vote with 9 people, I just think a lot of people were on that same page.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have the swap, and is it a gift or a curse that you swap with Marshawn? You get Mackenzie, you get Big Matt, and then you get Kim.
Honestly, I'm going to put it down as a gift in my book, because one, Matt, I met the night before. We were in the same like house sequestered for the game, so we could talk about life. And I knew he was likable. Like, I was like, oh my God, that's somebody that's super nice. Like everything that we were seeing about Big Matt is what I saw in the pregame with him. Mackenzie still had that advantage. So I'm like, yes, that is going to be used for us. Like, yes, I'm fine with that. Kim was my closest ally. And with Marshawn being somebody who I was actively targeting, and is what most of my confessionals are about in the first 3 episodes, him then being on my team, I was like, perfect. I do not need to create any new enemies. I do not need to create any new plot lines. I do not need to create new beef. It is already right here for me. And I have 2 new people that I want to work with. So it was kind of a win-win for me. And I think we kind of saw that play out where I was very flexible to work with Mackenzie and Big Matt. And I think that just came from even just being around camp with them. Like, they were people that I was easy to get along with, the same way with Drew and Brady. And it was more beneficial to me to show that I had a flexible game than to stick with red when I knew that that probably wasn't what was going to happen on other teams.
What do you think would have happened if that tribe had to go to another tribal?
Oof, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I probably would have been pushing for Daddy Matt, not gonna lie. But I also know he woke up really early that day and was around looking for keys. Now, in retrospect, we know that he did find at least some keys, or had a significant amount. So with his name already being on the block last time and him not using any of the keys, and it possibly being some weird 2-2 or 3-1, like, I bet Matt would have played keys and it would have been something crazy. But God bless the challenge advantage, like I said, and God bless the tug of war and the yellow team for giving us that win. So thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, anytime. So you have the second swap, right? So you're in a new tribe of 5. 5 people, which is really small. And so this is you, Mackenzie, Kim, Brady, and Rachel. And there's a lot that happens that leads to Kim deciding to step out of the game instead of, I think it sounds like it would have been a blindside on Brady or Rachel.
Yeah, that tribal council, I think this was also on like a cusp of a day. Like, we had ended Stacy's birthday challenge, and then it was like, okay, tomorrow morning is going to be tribal council. So we've talked about it before. We made the agreement that we weren't going to do any strategy talk that night. And I really do feel like everyone adhered by that. We just had a more of a bonding moment at the fire. And honestly, that probably added to the series of events that happened in the next morning, because we just ended up getting close and everybody was like, oh, we really want to see all of us get far. How are we going into the final 9 and we're still not at the merge? So then it was the next morning, and that's when the chaos, I think, really just blew up, because you got all these different iterations of already pre-existing relationships, different social dynamics, different, all these things that are going on. And then it didn't help that, we're on now, I think this was the start of day 3. We're drained. We have been going at this forever. And Kim was already somebody who wore her heart on her sleeve. So you could just see how it was taking a toll on her, and seeing how it was taking a toll on us, because it was also one of those situations in an LRG where since it was the first thing in the morning, production really wasn't ready. So everything went on a little bit longer than it needed to.
9 or 10 a.m. I felt, I think.
Yeah.
That day, right?
So people go and check in with another person, and then check in with another person, and check in with another person. And it should have ended. So we didn't have that. And that just let it boil and boil and boil to the point where Kim brought us all in, was like, listen, I'm not hearing my name. I really have accomplished the things that I want to do. We don't need to be tiptoeing around each other. I'm willing to lay down my torch. And then it got really emotional at tribal.
So it feels to me at this point that your closest ally is Mackenzie, or at least you were very pro Mackenzie on your first swap tribe. And from my sense of this round, you were close to Mackenzie again.
Yeah, I think definitely in being on the swap tribe with her, and then in our new swap tribe and going into merge, I felt very comfortable with Mackenzie. Now, what I will say, especially in this episode, I started to feel major distance from Mackenzie. Mackenzie is not as jovial and as upfront with me of information as she was when we were back on the red team. So I'm sensing a lot of this. And what I felt was really weird about it was, you even see in Jamie's confessional, they say they want to work with me and Mackenzie, and there's a video of me and Jamie together. But that's because Jamie and I kept getting together to be let's get something with me and Mackenzie together, because we're all working with her. But I don't know, she didn't seem to want to work with either of us.
I think Mackenzie might have had some other things going on this round that we will
I'm
talk
noticing
about
that
soon.
now.
Yeah.
And so you merge, you vote Kim onto the jury.
Yeah.
You decline your bribe, I believe, right?
I was the only person to do that. And you know what?
You're the most
Thank God I
ethical of us
did.
all.
Because I was like, Kim isn't going to lay down her torch literally like 2 hours ago. We just had some food and I'm going to forget that she did this for us. Because like I could have been sitting over there having to like hold my hand above my head and then plead with people via keys. Can't even like talk to them with the bribe. So the minute I heard it in the confessionals, I was like, oh God. I was like, everything we just planned and had an open discussion about is going to be completely null and void. And I was more, even in my confessional, I was like, I'm more worried about the fact that like, if I get to the end, Kim will vote for me. I have not met Nina. So thank you for a key. But like, if I'm at the end, will Nina vote for me? That's what I don't know. So I was more concerned about the long game. And I think that also just shows on how little I paid attention to the bounties and the keys part of the game. And I was more focused on like my longevity in the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you remember, because when we talked about this episode, I had very vague memory. Do you remember the fallout after that vote of voting Kim onto the jury?
Yes. So when we got back, because I remember I was like, this is not going to be pretty because I know why it's messy. Like, I know people took like bribes, but I don't know if other people know that. So I like remember we got back to camp and you were very upfront to be like, I voted for Nina. Like, I took I have an extra key, blah, 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 blah. Like, this was an offer. Do with that as you will. And everyone starts looking around and people like Brady are like, what do you mean? There's a new twist. What do you mean? And I think there was a lot of like pandemonium, but then I think people kind of like settled down and were like, oh, remember, like there's other advantages like that piggyback thing. So other people are getting keys. Like, I think it made us just more aware of the fact that now a lot of keys just got jumped into the game and people were like switched on. And I think that's why we see the level of chaos we do this round.
Yeah.
So the Matt vote out ends up being, I guess, what was your experience huddling under a tarp for 2 hours and strategizing? And would the vote, do you think, were you okay with the Matt vote, or is there another vote that would have been more ideal for you?
Yeah, I think that round was very interesting because we had done the challenge and the challenge was in the rain. And I remember I had done this challenge on Survivor BC season 9 and RIP. And
I get to watch it now. I never will. I feel so
literally
bad.
So anyways, we did the exact same challenge. I'm partnered up with someone, but that's the person we want to get out. I throw the challenge, and in my confessional, I say I throw it, and we voted that person out. So I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, now I need to win this because they're going to watch it. And if I don't win, they're going to be like, so you didn't throw it. You just aren't good at it. So that was cool to win in the rain. And then once we got back to camp and had to do that strategy under the tarp, like, I don't think the video does it justice. There was a lot of times where myself included got caught for saying somebody's name. And you have to be like, no. I'm just saying you're a number with us. Full well knowing I'm like, let's vote them out. And they're like 2 feet away from me. And I think little Matt was one of the people that like called me out on this. And I was like, no, just nope to his face. That was not good on my part. And honestly, I didn't want little Matt to go. Like, yes, not somebody I had met in the game before, but he also was somebody that like, if we maybe have had more time to get to know each other in the game, I would have been more keen for that. Because spoiler alert, when we're on the jury in Ponderosa, I really like Matt. Like, he's very nice. I was like, dang it. Like the person he was talking about at tribal council that should have worked with them. Hey, it's me. So you know what? Like, it was fun for it being under the tarp, and I was glad I had immunity, but that was definitely a chaotic round.
One other thing I want to talk about is that you have the unique luck of everyone in this season to draw your name twice as a bounty. So no one ever had you as a bounty, and you get to choose who you want your bounty to be. You end up choosing Drew as your bounty. Can you talk through that? Can you talk through the reasons there for that?
So I did not find out this piece of information until the episode aired.
Well, I think this, first off, hi.
Somebody had to have it. I don't know.
So in the first episode, if we remember all the way back to chapter 1, I pulled my own name and I'm like standing there as I'm rattling off all the other people. while I'm standing there, I am memorizing what my name looks like. Because I'm like, if I get to pick, there is a large chance we are going to have to do this again. There's no way this one bounty is going to last like for the entire thing. Like there's a chance this could come again. So I memorized what it looked like. We were each like little ripped pieces of paper. So when we came up to go again, I picked it so quickly and held it up. I already had my whole plan set. So in my head, nobody has me as the bounty. That's why I don't think I care about these bounties that much. And the reason why I picked Drew is I go, who's a bounty I'm going to be able to cash in quickly. So then I either get the keys and people forget I have them, or like I don't just get all these keys and then get targeted next. And whose name is going to come up? I'm thinking Drew, who's been pretty much immune all the way up until this point, has had maybe 1 or 2 tribal councils where he could have gone home. I thought his name would have come up and it would have been easy for me to jump on and cash in on the bounties, but
which
I
is
really
valid. That's a very valid thought process. The only problem is I never have more than 2 keys at a time in my
I know. I didn't know that.
1 and 2 keys can matter.
I thought Drew was like in the woods more, like looking for things. Like I would have expected you to have more keys, and I'm looking at this as like I picked Drew with 1 key. I'm like, John's right there, Brady's right there. I know I've seen Brady's keys, so I don't know. I think I just didn't care about the bounties as much. And was
unfortunately, I was just not looking at the key game. I never really did at all. I was much more concerned with social game than I was with game mechanics. So I just never had more than like 2 keys in my possession at a time.
Danny, would you prefer having keys or friends?
Honestly, friends. Like friends are, you see it pays off for me. I'm gonna say like the only reason why I think I went is because it went to the tie and allowed people to like get in there. I don't think, and John even says this, they could have gotten a majority on me. I don't think there would have been 5 people there that would have written down my name, but when I'm a possibility up and you're looking at Rachel or Brady, who was some of those people's closer ally, I think friends is the way to go.
So Matt goes out. You're at the final 9. Given how weird strategy was at that point, I mean, how are you feeling about the game as a whole? Who are you feeling the closest to as we start this episode?
I think, honestly, I remember feeling really like my footing was a little bit off at the merge. I remember feeling like I got some people looking out for me. Like, people like me. I'm not people's enemy, but I'm also not the first person people are like, Danny, I need to tell you something. Danny, I'm doing this for the end game. Like, that was not the conversations I was having. So for me, I felt a closeness to, as I mentioned, Big Matt, Rachel, Mackenzie, and all 3 of them practically snub me. Like, Rachel at the current moment is playing a very under the radar game. Rachel was like, I don't really want to talk. I don't really want to like, she's like, I'm not going to be the biggest voice here. And
Rachel's very happy to be a number at this point.
Yeah. Which I'm like, thank you for leaving me up here high and exposed. Like if the height difference already wasn't crazy enough. So she's quiet. We got Daddy Matt, who's, as Brady says, just eating fruits and vegetables back in the camp. And
well, and do you remember me and Daddy Matt getting into a fight at camp this round with Mackenzie standing in the middle being like, what's going on?
Oh my God. I was
this round was, I could tell this round you weren't feeling great because there was a point that you were standing under the tarp and I came up to you and I was like, oh, I have not talked to you this round. What's going on? And you were like, yeah, no one's talking to me more than like 2 minutes at a time. So like, I could tell you were visibly unwell this round. Like you were mad at something.
People were either trying to clue me into too many fake moves or were like going out of their way to like come up with some new strategy like on the spot that I know they're like not going forward with. Like you just got out of a conversation with somebody and you're coming to me pitching them. Like it just, stuff wasn't making sense. And like you said, I was getting really brief conversations with people and I also was getting shuffled around from a lot of groups. So you even see at one point, my name is being pitched 2-3 people and there I am just like, hey, like don't forget about me. Like I really did feel like kind of a pariah, and I think that's where my mid-round confessional comes in. I was literally so panicked that I just look at the camera and start telling them about like what's going on because I could feel like maybe a little more of the control that I thought I had wasn't there, and not getting a second name was not reassuring to me.
So I want to backtrack a little bit to the challenge. We have this slingshot challenge where there's heats of 3, and Danny, you're in the first heat, and I remember you go up and say, "I've never used a slingshot before," and then you dominate your rounds. Is that the case? Had you never used a slingshot before that point?
I don't know if anybody's watched Canada's Drag Race, but when Isis Couture drops in her knees and she goes, "Do you know when my knees hurt?" I lied, love. Like, I was not gonna sit up there and be like, "I'm amazing at all of these challenges. I do Pilates." Like, Drew, drop. It's not happening. Like, it's over. I kind of wanted to play that down, and I was already seeing that I was becoming a physical threat. I think at this point, like, I may be one immunity behind Drew, who has the most at this point. So I'm not oblivious to this fact, and I could feel that maybe people would want to pitch my name, or it might come up in a future round. And then when Casey hits us with that, "Oh, it's a double elimination," I'm like, throw everything out the window. I'm sorry. I'm gonna Laura Croft this. I'm on one knee, like, I'm gonna hit them all.
Yeah, and Mackenzie helped you out a little bit, so that was nice too.
Love. I was like, thank you for the, like, in the final round, give me something, but
Yeah,
it was good.
I think, is it John that wins the second heat, Drew, and then you win the third heat?
no, John was in the same heat as me.
Yeah,
it was me, Mackenzie, and Danny.
Mackenzie, okay. How can I forget that? The picture Casey sent of Mackenzie just like posing, also Laura Croft style.
Yeah, she looked badass.
And then so the three of you are head to head in the finals, and well, how does that go?
Drew won! Yay!
I have never used a slingshot before. Like, genuinely, I had never used a slingshot before that day. So I don't know how that happened.
As you said, you ate.
Yeah, I did kind of eat the first. So the first round, I hit 3 out of my first 5 shots were my hits in the first one. The second one took me longer because I was like nervous and shaky. But yeah, I don't know how that happened. So I'll take it.
And I was really frustrated in this moment because I was like, damn, not am I in the final round, so I already look like a threat, but my bounty just won the immunity.
Yeah.
Like, if I would have had any chance, it'd be the double tribal. And now I'm like, this is not working. So
Danny, give me a hypothetical. You win immunity. Now that you're safe for the double tribal, what is your agenda?
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
Hey, Mackenzie. Like, I'm barking down big dog doors. Like, if it's a double tribal and I just won my second immunity in a row, you best believe I'm about to start offing some heads. Because if I am going to be here at the final 7, at that point, I think I might have like 3 or 4 keys, pending the one that I'd find in the voting booth later. But I would have just gone big, because at this point I already know that I'm a threat, and I could have done like a pseudo type of shields thing, but I'm already feeling like people are not my closest allies. So I'm running it to the end, and I'm probably coming after you, Drew, to collect keys, and then probably going after Mackenzie, just because I think John and Tyler I would have wanted to keep a little more, because at this point I am the only person, and Mackenzie, who knows that they're brothers, which is crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And so did Tyler or John tell you this, or you knew coming into the season?
So I knew Tyler from Survivor BC, my first game, and I knew John from working production one summer when I helped out Survivor New York. So I knew both of them separately. And then, funny enough, I found out that they were playing Surviving Bloomington, and like I messaged them, and I'm an alternate at this point. And I'm like, oh my God, like, ha ha ha, like, good luck. Like, I'm going to send you some money, like, rooting you on, blah, 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 to both of them. And then each of them tell me individually that the brother's playing. And then like a week later, my photo pops up and I'm like, hey, brothers. So now you're actually contractually obligated to work with me. And I will say something if you don't.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like in this round, we see Tyler fighting for you a lot. John, not so much. John is very passive this round.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, we see him in a lot of conversations, but it doesn't seem like John is the one making a lot of decisions this round.
Yeah, I really feel like I knew Tyler was going to bat for me, because I also knew, like, coming into it, Tyler was the person that I had a better relationship with. John was by proxy. He was in the cast and I was one person filming. I wasn't even filming his tribe. So like, I more knew of him. And we also at this point have no relationship in the game. So the fact that John isn't going to bat for me and not somebody that's like going as heavy as Tyler isn't really surprising to me. But what is surprising is seeing how heavily Tyler is. Cause like in the game, I like vote for Tyler, or like I like want him out of the game. So for him to then in this game be one of the people that's like actually advocating for me, I think it just made us closer.
Yeah. So maybe a good thing to do here in terms of breaking down the strategies and votes here is, and maybe instead of going in chronological order, let's maybe group it by storylines. So
Yeah.
first, let's talk about this Tyler and Brady situation, because that's like the big thing of the episode, I feel. One of the big things.
Yeah.
So we know as the audience that Tyler has Brady as a bounty. Tyler did not tell anyone except for John and Brady, I believe, at this point. And Brady even says, like, why would you tell me that?
Yeah, I don't know why he did that.
Oh,
I mean,
I can contest to the saying, telling your bounty you have them ends up not being a good plan.
Me and
like,
Mackenzie
hello.
told each other. Me and Mackenzie told each other this round that we had each other. We were like, yeah, just to make sure that we're like locked in. Like, I'm just gonna come clean. Like, I have you. I'm not worried about cashing in on it. And both of us told each other this round.
Yeah.
And it helped because through both tribals, Mackenzie and I were actively working together. So
And it can go both of those ways for you
Yeah.
too. Like it can either be that trust building bond of like, okay, cool. Like you're not going to come for me. Like I trust you. Like good. We're going to work together. And now I have information on you. Or it could go the opposite where Steven, you came from a really honest place of being like, I do not want to target you. Like it's in my best interest to work with you up into a certain point. And then he was like, no, it's time to like get you out. So
And I think it's a lot
double-edged
of just reading the person and understanding them as a
Mhm.
person. You know, I made that call really early in the game, and had I made that call maybe 2 or 3 rounds in, it could have been different once I knew John.
Yeah.
Right. And with me and Mackenzie, Jamie had told me at the first swap, before we voted Jamie out the first time, Jamie had said, like, yeah, I had Mackenzie as my bounty and I told her. And so I feel really good with her. And I'm like, okay, keeping it in the memory bank that Mackenzie will work with people who are honest and loyal.
Ooh.
So I go in and I was
pretty
kind of waiting through, TARP round. I was like, let's give it a second. And once I figured out that absolutely no one's coming for Mackenzie, I'm like, okay, let's just get in good with her and move forward. I tell her, she tells me back, we work together.
Yeah. I think also one thing I want to say about this Tyler and Brady situation is how bad I read this situation. I did not see how heavily Tyler was pushing for like, don't play him, don't play him. There's like one point where they're like both, I know both of them, they're having a fake conversation. It's them going, exactly, use it for extra votes, exactly. Like they went the extra mile, and I feel like had Tyler just been like, no, just save them, your name isn't even coming up, move on, and on to like the next thing, and just had left it if he hadn't gone the extra mile. And then also, I'm sorry, don't tell Drew. Like, if you don't want things to get out, I wouldn't have told Drew, who's very close with Brady.
Well, and see,
Like,
so I
it's just all
said it in
bad.
this
It's
episode.
overplaying.
I was willing to vote out Brady there because I think I was maybe a little bit. I was probably leaning a little bit into delusional territory this episode because I felt
With immunity.
I felt like I had fully transitioned from being in the Drew, Brady, Tyler trio to being in this group that I list out of myself, Tyler, John, Rachel, Mackenzie. I'm like, well, Brady's not in it, so I don't care. We can vote Brady out. Like, that's fine with me. So I didn't tell Brady that Tyler was trying to go for her. I did not tell Brady this round.
I couldn't tell from watching, was Tyler being honest, saying you don't need to play your keys, you're safe, or was he really actually trying to force Ray to play her keys when she didn't need them? I couldn't tell.
No, he was trying to get Brady to not play keys so we could take out Brady at the second vote so he could get those keys from her.
Yeah. And I also think what was crazy was I lost my train of thought. I think it was about just come back to me.
So I think one thing with this conversation, so Tyler's being weird with Brady. We get a Brady confessional being like, why is he pushing so hard? And then when Brady's like, okay, yeah, what you're saying makes sense. Like, I won't play them. Tyler's reaction, so bad. He was like, exactly. This is what this is perfect for us. Like, this is so great. I'm like, calm down. Like,
and also said, oh, if you're here. Don't say that. Don't speak in absolutes. Speak in absolutes when you're here at the final 7, Brady. Yeah. When we're here at the final 7, like that was just crazy to me. This is not the time for little mess ups.
And Brady clocked that really quickly. So
this did not feel like a good episode for either of the two players, because I know we're jumping later on. Brady doesn't play her keys. She leaves them back. And I think Casey would not stop her if she runs back, grabs, and runs back the capacitor. I think she could have done that.
I think so. Casey's motto, and he told us this. He said, if there's a rule that's not clarified and you do something and don't ask, I'm less likely to tell you you're not allowed to do it. So by Brady asking, Casey shut it down. If Brady had just been like, oh, hold on 1 second, run back, Casey would have let it go.
Did she even ask?
She asked. She was like,
She's
"Oh,
do I
was
have to
supposed
have
do-
them?
Do I have to
I'm
have
like,
them with me?"
girl.
Well, she says that, but like it's not
Casey's
like,
like, "Yeah,
can I
you
go
have to have
back
them
and
with
get
you."
them?
No,
Right?
she
doesn't
didn't. She
ask
didn't
her
ask.
that.
She didn't ask.
And
Right,
that's
and
crazier, and we'll talk about that later, because that means she still has the keys and didn't play them, but
So-
Okay.
digress.
I'm jumping
Yeah,
ahead.
this
So.
Brady Tyler situation, we see.
Oof.
So the first vote happens. We'll talk about that more in a second. The first round of votes happen. It comes down to Danny, Brady, Rachel as a three-way tie. Tyler, before Casey says no talking, Tyler looks back at me and says, "We have to do Brady as the backup plan." And I shake my head no. Look at John and Mackenzie and say, "We have to go Danny here." Now, John obviously knew we were going Danny anyway, but Brady ends up getting a vote from Tyler and a vote from Jamie. And we get the fallout of that.
Them after that vote was better than them before the vote, because now they can just say, and Tyler voted for Brady, so it's like there was no coming back for that, and Tyler's very adamant in the like second tribal, like, I wasn't pitching you, like I didn't say your name. Brady's like, you voted me in the revote. I know you didn't vote for me in the first vote. Like we're talking about the revote.
And Tyler tries getting into all these semantics. Brady's like, "You voted me out," and he's like, "No, I didn't. You're still here." And Brady's like, "You voted for me," and he's like, "No, I voted for Matt at the first vote." It's like that doesn't matter.
So I want to back the strategy. I think so there's the Tyler Brady discussion. We have to talk about Big Matt next.
Yeah.
Because talk to me about your experiences strategizing with Alaka with Big Matt this round.
So Big Matt did not leave that, like, other than to brush his teeth, did not leave that like campfire area and was just snacking on fruits and vegetables the whole time. And he and I had just gotten into it because, and that's gotten into it tribal. So I approach Matt again after last round, having approached him and him giving me the 4 names. I approached Matt and I was like, "Have you heard any names this round?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, the only one I've heard is," and I don't remember who he said. And I was like, "Who'd you hear that from?" He says, "I'm not telling you." And I'm like, "Okay, this is the second time you've done this. Like, you can't just say names and like make them up out of nowhere." And that him and I got into it briefly there, and that's why later at tribal, him and I get into it again. We knew, I think most of us knew that he was going to play something. I don't know. Like,
he really played the possum this round. Like if
Yeah.
there's a like sit out and die and not participate, that was Matt. Like he played it up like, "I'm going home. I'm gonna pack my stuff, guys. Like just go about it. I'll pack my stuff." And I'm like,
we all knew.
oh my
We all
God.
knew.
Like what is he doing? And part of me, the reason why I still vote for him is just because I'm like, is this an act? Like, is he just acting? Like this would be great. We all like think it's gonna be him. If we don't vote for him and he doesn't do anything, then he'll be fine. But I think I said it before, like strategizing with him, it was just we were getting a wall. And there was a conversation with Rachel, me, and Matt in the shelter where we're like, listen, we are probably some of the people floating at the bottom or are about to be picked off sooner. What do we want to do about that? And we're all saying we don't have agency. We don't really know where the vote is. We could do something. Are we going to have an open, honest conversation about that? And it just kind of like fell on deaf ears or like kind of got the just stereotypical responses. So Rachel and I just kind of like picked up that he wasn't really interested in having that conversation. And I think it makes more sense now, seeing that he wanted to get old order back together. I was like, okay, that's why he's not like trusting us. But I'm like, come on.
So yeah, he has this discussion with John and he's like, "Last vote, I wanted order to stick together, but clearly we didn't do that." And John's like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do moving forward?" And he's like, "Nothing, I'm done. I'm done with y'all."
I'm like, cute.
And then it's just so strange because like I even remember trying to talk to him this round and I was like, well, because we had just argued, separated, come back together. And I was like, "Do you want to try to work together?" And he's like, "Sure." I was like, "Well, I'm just going to tell you because like I do respect you. Like you need to play your keys." And he's like, "Okay, well, if I don't, who should I vote for?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're playing keys. I know. Let's just not pretend anymore." And from that point, it was just like, but between the two of us, we're not going to work together. Like we had just broken all sense of trust between us.
I really wish he had you, Danny, or Mackenzie, or somebody said like, "Hey, I have 6 keys. I am playing them. if people are voting for me, your vote can matter knocking someone out, right? Because Danny, had you
Yes.
known he was playing 6 keys, who do you cast a vote for at this point?
Yes, that's literally what we were pitching. Like, I was like, I don't understand why. Like, great, it's going to be your move. You're going to play the 6 keys. You have no vote, meaning
Yep.
you're immune. You're not going to be here even at the second vote, meaning you pretty much just got to pass through and you're not going to be able to cast a vote. So why not scoop up 2 other numbers with people who are sitting here going, let's do something. You tell us who to vote. I'm going to be like Jacqueline. I'm writing down who you said, Natalie. Yeah. I wrote down who you said. Because it would be his move. So I just don't understand.
I guess his thought process was to let the people, I don't know. I guess his thought was to let us eat each other.
It feels like he's very much like, I just want to watch the world burn around me and I don't care. I feel like
I think it was, I don't know, maybe it was just like, let's spring this on them so they have to act without being able to plan. Unfortunately, I know, yes, I agree, Rachel, but I also know for a fact that myself, at minimum, this is just the people I've talked to about this, at minimum, myself, Tyler, John, Rachel, and Mackenzie all knew he was playing keys. We did not know how many he had. Danny, I'm sure you had an inkling of it as well. But we didn't know how many he had, but we knew he was playing keys, which is why you see specifically myself and John throw votes elsewhere to try to get people out.
Yeah.
Stephen, what were your thoughts on Matt's tribal council performance?
Well,
it was.
Well, it's alluded to the previous episode where in his like confessions, like, I'm gonna call it Brady, Tyler, and you, Drew, and we get that happening, and like I love the kind of like, are we together, are we not, and then like Tyler and Brady vote for each other, so clearly that's not happening. But like to extent like there was that 3 of you at some point, just
there
not
was
anymore.
Yeah, see, for me, I was just trying not to laugh the whole time until it got to saying that I threw Little Matt's name out. Because in my head, I'm like, he has no idea that I'm not even working with Brady anymore. I've completely switched to this new group that has Mackenzie, John, and Rachel in it. So I'm not even working with Brady. So he's going to look really dumb in the edit right now. And then it gets worsened when Brady and Tyler then immediately start fighting within 30 minutes of that statement being made. I'm like, wow,
I'm in the middle of all of this. Like,
it's a great reaction, Danny.
Because like, mind you, this is a 180, maybe even dare I say a 367-20 from the Matt we saw at camp. Like, he came in hot, and this is not what I was expecting. And another reason why I voted for him, because I was like, if he's coming this hot, he don't got nothing. Like, he is definitely just, this is his last ditch effort, and it hit. And also it hit just for enough time that he needed it. And it needs to cause the chaos. And even if you guys weren't working together, I was just surprised my name got left out of it. I was like, how am I not being looped in with them?
Basically, he does bring you up, but not in that context. But basically what he says, okay, Drew, you're a social and physical threat, and your number 2, Tyler, is a snake who is lying to everyone. And then the 2 of y'all together are stringing along Brady, and the 3 of you are running the game. And Drew and Tyler tried to convince me that Danny and Brady are close, but I know that's not true. And I was like,
yeah,
what?
I'm like, well, thanks for thinking I'm good at challenges.
I was just like, I needed a moment to process everything he said, because he did not stutter. And he also attacked the right amount of people, that it wasn't like just like a full smattering of everybody. He was like, everyone attention here. This is where I'm seeing. You all need to like see this too in the game. So honestly, props to him. And it was very fun to watch back. But living in that moment, I was like, oh God, don't let me catch strays and don't drag me into this.
Yeah. So then we get a lot of Tyler being like, what makes you think this? Like, where are you getting this from? We get Brady just being like, I don't understand how eye contact makes me allies with someone. And then we get me and Matt arguing over semantics of, is saying you heard a name the same as pitching a name? Basically is what that conversation boils down to.
Yeah. And then at one point you're even like, why are we talking about last round? And I was like, yes, why are we? Like, we have a double vote. let's get back on topic.
It was just so weird because I felt like he was saying that I pitched Matt's name when that wasn't true because I had just heard Matt's name. And then it got into, well, I'm not mad at you because you pitched Matt's name. I'm mad at you because you won't tell me who pitched the names. And then I get into like, well, you didn't tell me who pitched the 4 names. And I lay out the 4 names in front of everyone. And he's like, okay, so you're mad at me for the same reason I'm mad at you. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now. Let's just.
I was like, Matt, why are you mad? You profited off of this. That was your bounty. You didn't want your bounty to go. Okay. Rachel can go then.
Let's talk about, let's see, another pre-tribal storyline. We have the Mackenzie name being out situation. That we get pieces of it at the beginning of the scramble, and then we get a lot more pieces at the second vote. So from my recollection and what we see on screen, Tyler's trying to get out Brady, but is giving Mackenzie as the fake name to Brady. You walk into that conversation, and Tyler's like, let's do Mackenzie for the second vote. And all 3 of you are like, cool. You and Brady splinter off and are like, wait, I don't understand Rachel's question. Sorry, I got distracted.
Rachel, can you give us some context for the first time the whole game, right? To what?
Hold on, I need to see this question because I completely lost my train of thought.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah, the 3 of you are talking about Mackenzie. You and Brady peel off. Brady's like, I actually don't want to do Mackenzie. We need to come up with something different. Yes, this is the first time that Mackenzie's name has come up. I think. I don't know. Danny, did it come up on the Femme tribe?
Yes. When we were like, all of chaos is going to stick together and vote Mackenzie, but like also everyone's name was
no traction then.
So yeah, there wasn't like that was a plan. Whether or not that was going to be the plan, I don't think that was the case. Like that was back up to the Rachel Brady dilemma from before.
Yeah. So the 3 of you, Brady, Tyler, discuss Mackenzie. Tyler leaves. Brady's like, I don't think I want to do Mackenzie, but y'all don't really pitch necessarily another name. It's just kind of like, okay, we'll figure out who we're going to do. At some point, Mackenzie's name being out gets back to Mackenzie. At the same time, I'm having a conversation with Brady being like, Mackenzie's name is out. And you see me in that confessional, my eyes are like bugging out of my head. I'm like, this is bad. Because to me, I'm seeing Mackenzie and John and Tyler right now as my closest allies. And then I'm still under the impression we're like dragging Rachel along as like a vote or whatever. Essentially what ends up happening, what's explained in the episode is Danny, at some point you go and tell Mackenzie that I had pitched her name, or that comes up in conversation. Brady backs you in this claim. That gets back to me. I go to Mackenzie and I'm like, I did not pitch your name. I didn't even know it was out. And Brady's like, oh yeah, the only reason that I said that it was you is because Danny was there. It actually was not Drew. We get flash forward to tribal, and Brady calls Tyler out being like, yeah, Tyler, don't you want to admit to being the one to originally say Mackenzie and that it wasn't Drew? And that's when I step up and I'm like, no, what actually happened was it very much felt like, Danny, I know you'll get this. Like 3 people will get this. It very much felt like did you just sit here and say my daughter looks miserable, so maybe we should put Kalani in her place? No, I never said that. It felt like very that. From Dance Moms. I don't know. Steven, what were your thoughts on this?
I guess for me, it's like, it sounds like almost everyone's names came up, right? Like, Danny, had it come back to you that your name had come up, or was that news to you when watching the episode?
No, I think I knew my name was out there, and I think kind of like to go back about the Mackenzie thing, I didn't realize that that was coming up and being set as the second vote because I had walked up and that was like a plan to cover that, because that makes more sense and explains why Brady and I don't talk about it, because I pretty much go, so we're not voting Mackenzie, right? And Brady's like, yeah. So we know that that's a fake plan and we want to just like move on with something else. But I feel like going around this round, I had heard everybody's name. I knew my name was out there. This is the first round now in the merge where I don't have immunity. So people are looking at me as somebody to take out. And also, like, I don't feel like my relationships are super strong. So I knew my name could have come up. And with Matt acting sketch, like, I knew some stuff was going to go down.
Well, it feels like in a different world where 1, this isn't a double tribal, and 2, like, Matt doesn't play the shot of darks or he gives knowledge of, or something else happens, right? You get to this round, and I think you'd have to do a lot of recalibration. But at this point, there's no majority willing to switch it to you, at least for the first one. Right?
Yes, which is I've very much verbalized being confused about. Because for me, looking at this round, I'm like, why can we not get these numbers on Danny? Because we have 9 people and I'm in a 5-person alliance. Plus, I felt that I still had Brady and Mackenzie still had Jamie, which would put us at 7 out of 9 people. So I'm like, let's just cut Danny at the second vote after whatever happens in the first vote. And John was like, I don't think we can. Like, Danny's too good socially. I'm like, okay, somebody out there is protecting Danny. I don't know what's going on, but
everybody in your alliance.
I was like, somebody in this group of 5 is like protecting Danny, because I remember Mackenzie being like, yeah, I'd rather do Danny than Jamie, but I would still prefer not to do Danny. And then Jamie's name started coming up again. And that's where I'm like, I feel like this is what happened last time, where everybody's pitching Jamie and I'm going to have to vote with the majority and lie to Jamie again.
I just don't understand why I'm not getting swooped into these alliances, because I feel like everybody you named, Mackenzie, somebody I said I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
I know the brothers, John and Tyler, and I've been working closely with Tyler and Rachel. Like, I don't know. I feel like it was right to call out that my social game was really good. It was what was keeping me in the game at that point. And it was speaking to like, people did not want to turn on me at that point, but I didn't also have the strong enough connections to be getting the information of like, Matt is playing 6 keys. Matt has this. This is the like in-depth behind the scenes that you're not seeing. Like, I was only really getting surface level in 2 minutes. So from what I pieced together, the fact that it even got to like the 1-to-1-to-1 revote, had I had time to talk, I'd be in the next episode. Like, there's no way.
So, Drew, at what point do the 5 of you come together and solidify?
Last round. The previous round under the tarp, it was basically a situation of Mackenzie and I had a long talk about wanting to work with each other, because the 2 of us, much like Danny and Big Matt, we were sequestered together the night before the game. And we didn't talk about any strategy. We didn't like pregame or plan to work together, but we just had a lot of overlapping interests. So when we finally came together, we both had the discussion of like, okay, we both think that we are kind of running our individual groups. Now, whether that perception is correct or not, to be determined, I guess. But we're like, let's work together here. We have a mutual ally in John. We have a mutual ally in Rachel. Tyler's feeling good. Cool. We'll do that. I'll bring in Brady as a number. Mackenzie bring in Jamie as a number. We can cut them later. The 5 of us can just ride it out. It'll be fine. So for me, the way I'm looking at it, I tend to be a very black or white thinker. So for me, I'm like, Danny is not in this group. So why are we not targeting Danny?
Why aren't we targeting Danny? Why are we targeting Danny? I don't know. I want to.
I was just like, Danny's not in this group. So for me, if this group is saying they're committed to me, Danny makes sense as a target for me.
Dang.
Question for you, Danny. Did Jamie share with you that they voted for Rachel the round before?
No, only after the game. And it was honestly hilarious, because the first thing Jamie says in the car is, you remember all those rogue votes to Rachel? Ever since I've gotten the game, I've written Rachel's name down. And I just burst out laughing, because I had no idea who kept like rogue voting for Rachel. So that was honestly really funny to hear that Jamie was just like going after Rachel the entire time.
Well, and I knew Jamie also had gotten all of that Redemption Island info. And I'm sure Steven had told Jamie not to necessarily trust Rachel.
No, I don't think I said anything. A lot of my discussion is more on John than Rachel. I mean, I got voted out, but I was also targeting Rachel at the same time, so there's no ill will there whatsoever. She got the upper hand on me.
Yeah. Speaking of Jamie, I think, has a really good analysis of what they need to do this round. Now, obviously, we see that there are other circumstances that cause their downfall, but Jamie says, I think that Mackenzie and John have moved on to other people, so I have to be a free agent. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I think that's the correct read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we could even feel that distance, and Jamie was even voicing that to me when we would have like one-on-one conversations, and it was honestly surprising, because the entire time I had met Mackenzie before, and Mackenzie was like, oh, if Jamie comes back in, like, that's somebody that can work with us. Like, they seemed pretty tight. So then for Jamie to be voicing concerns to me that like he was feeling the distance, I was like, if you're feeling the distance and I'm feeling the distance, mine is definitely a longer pole than yours. So I was feeling real stressed at that point that it was just not looking good for us.
Yeah, that round, I was like, okay, Jamie's not in the group, Danny's not in the group. The only other person that was not in the group from my perception, I mean, Brady, who I was not going to actively vote for, but was okay with cutting. And then the other person was Daddy Matt, who everyone knew was going to be the first vote anyway. It was just a matter of, are the keys going to hit or not?
Yeah.
Which is why we hear for the second vote, it's like, is it going to be Brady? Is it going to be Danny? Is it going to be Jamie? Is it going to be Rachel? It seems like those are the 4 names. Tyler and John's names don't really come up that round.
No, not. I think everybody else did, but not theirs. And I think it speaks to maybe the game that they're playing and the position that they put themselves in, because it's both the people on the bottom and the people that are in that new majority alliance that you guys formed are advocating for them. So, wow, we let the brothers get through a double.
Anything else before we get to the first tribal?
Not in the strategy like talks at tribal council, but I did realize that like there was moments where like we were talking and I feel like Rachel would be very short with like a question and just move on. And you even see that again where like where they're having the fight and I'm like looking in between and Rachel just like has her head down. Like she's like,
she does
don't
her full
involve me.
Sith Lord.
If I'm not, like she's like, if I'm not looking, like if I only have the one eye, like they're not going to see it. So I think that was good on her part to like literally fade into the background while the fight is happening.
Yeah, I think the weather also really affected both Rachel and Mackenzie. It just absolutely drained them.
Oh no, yeah, it was brutal. Like I don't think the video even last round showing it like, oh, it was under the tarp before tribal council. No, the entire day felt horrible and we were soaked to the bone.
It was cold
Ruined
too.
Them saying they were saving clothes. I was like, I don't know where you're keeping them dry, but nothing is dry. It was horrible. So
thankfully I was. Oh, that would be bad.
Wow.
Rachel, no, don't quit.
No, I would not have do that.
Rachel persevered.
Rachel, you're only allowed to quit in the round where I would have been voted out. So but yeah, it was thankfully I was able to keep my clothes dry. Mackenzie says at tribal that all of her stuff, including pillows, sleeping bag, all of her clothes were soaked. So she's wearing, I don't remember whose shirt she's wearing, but at this tribal council through both, she's wearing my sweatpants, which I had actually managed to keep dry. And she was just borrowing clothes from people because all her stuff got drenched, which sucks.
I didn't realize these tents weren't waterproof. I thought they were like,
well,
when the boys camp, the mask team decides to build it at the bottom of the like hill, literally.
Well, no. We did not build the tent. That's where they had the tent set up. We actually moved a tarp on top of
I think Big Matt built the tent. He was part of the. No, I don't know. I was in charge of putting the tarp. I didn't build the initial tent at order. I can't remember who did it.
Yeah, that was not us. We actually ended up, because it was sprinkling that morning, we ended up moving a tarp on top of it because the roof wasn't waterproof. So the chaos team did it right. That's all I'll say.
And we didn't even go there. I was like, but you know what? We ended up surviving. Thank God.
Non-strategy, but one thing I really appreciate the editing the episode is that we end all the strategy roundabout with Drew just saying like, I've heard every name, I just don't know what's going on anymore. And just kind of like we get this great fed up quote for you, and that is our transition to tribal council.
I was so mad. It was a combination of the drama that happened with me finding out that Mackenzie thinks I threw her name out. It was me trying to target Danny, but nobody else wanting to help me other than kind of John. And then like me hearing Brady, Danny, Jamie, Rachel, Mackenzie, all as options for one single vote. It was just a lot. And I was like, why are y'all just making things up? Like, just tell me something to do.
It was also a lot of emotion for safe. Just gonna put that out.
It's true. It was a lot of emotion for safe. And I think it's so funny that you hear me being like, yeah, I'm gonna be the villain. And then I get mad when other people are chaotic.
Like, why are other people being villainous?
So Hannah Tribal Council, I just like, and Mackenzie and Rachel, please chime in. Let's say Matt goes on the first vote. Who are you voting for the second vote?
I would have voted Danny, but I don't think that would have been the majority. I think Jamie would have gone out.
Yeah, I think if I would have caught wind that my name was out there, because let's be real, if I survived that first vote and like Big Mac goes or Brady goes in any of those iterations, my name's going to come back up because people brought it up and said it. And I'm also not the type to like back down from a fight. So there would have been Brady versus Tyler and me versus somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would have saw that Jamie's name was out there and so sorry, love. Kiss to the wind, and I need to get on to the final 7. Like that round was going to end very quickly. He was not giving us an infinite amount of time. I really do feel like the live tribal was just because it got super chaotic, but this whole tribal was lit by like car lights. That's why we don't get like a chance to talk again about the vote. I think like we needed to move stuff along, and it was just like so crazy.
Yeah, Jamie's name was out there already. I mean, clearly Rachel is targeting Jamie at the second vote. That's all we hear from Rachel the entire episode, which works great for her. But yeah, I know Mackenzie didn't want to go for Jamie because they had their thing. Tyler was clearly ready to take a shot at Brady. That would not have worked because Brady was going to play keys regardless. Brady tried to get us all to go on Tyler, as we saw, but I think kind of all of us are just like, because we have other things to talk about. Like that can be shuffled aside. What does Mackenzie's comment say?
So I think this is in terms of the second vote.
Like
yeah.
What she would do.
So Mackenzie says, honestly, depends on the talks. If Danny confirms with me that Jamie was withholding, I'm not quite sure what withholding information maybe, and Danny was with me, then I may have just thrown a vote at Tyler, but let Jamie go through. For the second vote.
Mackenzie was never, and she told me this during this scramble. Mackenzie said, I'm not writing down Jamie's name. Like they are not going to be getting a vote from me. But I think Jamie's name was out there enough between myself, Danny, John was willing to cut Jamie, Tyler was willing to vote Jamie, Rachel was targeting. I mean, I think Jamie would have gone out if Matt had gone out first.
And I think it didn't. There was one point at Tribal Council, Rachel really like snaps in and is like, Jamie, did you like vote for me point blank? And Jamie said something along the lines of like, no, like denies it. And then it gets pushed onto Big Matt. And Big Matt's like, I can't even vote. So it's like she finds out this and like that's just enough for her to be like,
so
okay.
From talking with Jamie, I think from what I remember from talking with Jamie, Jamie talks to Rachel. Rachel like, did you vote for me? Jamie says, no, I did not. I voted for Matt, I voted for Matt or someone else. Jamie lies. Matt comes over and says, who'd you vote for? And Jamie is honest with Matt and says, I voted for Rachel. And from talking with Jamie, then Matt immediately goes to Rachel and tells Rachel, Jamie voted for you.
Yeah.
So Matt kind of busses Jamie in that sense.
mean, Jamie definitely had people in their corner. Mackenzie and I were not trying to let Jamie go out that round because I felt like the previous round I had really reconnected with Jamie. And we'll get into this when we get to Jamie's final words. But that second vote, even if Matt had gone out the first vote, that second vote, people were throwing out Jamie's name, specifically Rachel and John. And my thinking was, no, I can't afford to lose Jamie right now. So I decide that my best way to do this is to tell people Jamie can't win because they've already been voted out. So there's no point in getting rid of Jamie because Jamie's not a threat. Jamie can't win. Jamie overhears this conversation. And of course we hear about that in the final words, but me doing that was saying, oh, Jamie's not a threat. We can let Jamie get through this vote. Cause I felt like Jamie would have been a better number for me than maybe some other people. Unfortunately I did not explain that plan to Jamie. So that was a rough one. But yeah, I think going back to the original question, had Big Matt gone out on the first vote, I'm fairly confident Jamie goes out on the second vote with like Danny getting some rogue votes, Tyler getting some rogue votes, maybe even Rachel catching a vote.
Yeah, because a lot of people pulled keys at that point. Like there were only 5 votes even in the second vote. So you see like just how much it matters where those votes go.
Well, and you see Tyler considers playing keys as well, even, and didn't.
Wow.
So Tyler might have.
John was going to. What was John's move? That's what I would love to know.
John and I was talking about this with him earlier today. I think this is the round where I give John one of my keys so we can combine them.
Do you have any left at this point? So I thought you gave your only one.
I got 2 this episode from winning immunity. Because Rachel and I swapped advantages because I was like, oh, Rachel, your bounty is Big Matt. I have the bounty thing, so I'll give you this. And I am more likely to win a challenge. That was my thought process. And so we'll switch. And we had swapped around prior, and then I won.
Rachel, why are you telling Drew this and not me? Why am I finding out about
Because,
it?
okay,
Well,
because
no,
I've never seen that and
Rachel did
wondering
not
how it's
tell me
occurred.
this. Mackenzie told me Rachel had that advantage. And I was like,
Oh.
oh my gosh, we can be mutually beneficial to each other. So let me go talk to Rachel. So I went to Rachel. I was like, hey, Mackenzie told me you had this. I have this. Does it make sense to you for us to swap? And she was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Big Matt's going out. You're going to win immunity. Sounds good. So we swapped.
Oof.
I don't remember what we were talking about.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the first tribal council before we dive into the rest of the second tribal council. I guess I feel like we've hit through the major points. I think the question for you, Danny, is like, you had like 1 key, 2 keys at this point.
I think I actually had 4 because
4.
I think I remember when I pulled that one, like I think the confessional only showed me having like 2, but like I think I had another one, and then I pulled that 4th key at the voting booth, and I was like, oh, I have enough for an extra vote. I never get a chance to use that, but you know, that is going through my head.
I guess, how tempted were you to play an extra vote or roll the dice on the dark? And then I guess follow-up question, when it's a 1-1-1 tie, your reaction and what you would have done had there been time to talk.
Yeah, so firstly, when I had found that other key, like I didn't already bring my keys to the voting booth. I had intended on voting, so I would have had to pull like something that Brady would have done and run back. It was crazy enough. Imagine I'm like traipsing back. I'm like, guys, sorry, I forgot something. Like, it's going to be crazier tonight. Like, I forgot something. Don't worry about it. And then I play like another rogue vote. So in my head, I grabbed it and I was like, okay, next vote, maybe I'll do the like double vote. Cause it was one of those things where like the extra vote had to be used there. So I just went back to my seat. I didn't really think about it. Then we see the votes come out. Daddy Matt gets all these votes negated against him. We get this vote for Rachel again in the same font. Then we get my name. And now I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to be sniped out by an idle play. And it goes to a tie. So I'm like, oh, perfect. Like a 3-way tie with somebody with 5 keys. This is going to be honestly a cakewalk for me to convince people to do this. And then Casey says, don't talk. I think that's where my game died. And that's where I knew I died. Because I was like, I have no way of conferring with any of these people to do anything, say anything, make any moves. I'm also praying that Jamie and Tyler, who are on opposite sides of the tribal, will vote together. They haven't talked. So now I'm like, oh my God, if this even scatters anyway, I'm just nervous. So I wish we had more time to talk. If I would have been able to get up, I would have been pitching.
What is your prediction for if everyone was allowed to talk? What do you think would have been the ultimate conclusion for that? I know for a fact I was not changing my vote. I was.
I know whose vote. I know whose vote is getting changed. It would have been Mr. John's. No, John's. Okay. I would have walked up to him and I would have been like, right now, I am going to call you out and expose that you and Tyler are brothers, and I will burn this game to the ground with me on it.
Wow.
And you, Tyler, and Jamie will vote with me, and we will take out Brady with all the keys. Your brother Tyler will profit 5 keys, and we will be in a very good spot come this next vote. What do you want to do? Because I turned around and I looked at him and I go, don't do it. Like, don't vote me off. And when I get voted off, I'm like, okay, it was 3-2. Like, I'm going up to these brothers, and I give Tyler a hug and I'm like, hey, like, good game, good luck. Like, did you vote for me? Tyler says no. I believe him. I go to John and I go, did you vote for me? He says no. And I go, okay. And I get up there, and that's why I give that other speech about people needing to wake up, because my original speech was going to be exposing the brothers. That would have been my like go-to. I was ready to pull that out.
And let me tell you, I might have passed out.
Because had he said no, I'd be like, well, then I'm going home, because like there's a good chance I'm still going to catch the votes. And if I could stir up more chaos, I was like, there's actually brothers on this cast.
And honestly, you might have gotten Mackenzie to vote for Brady as well, because Mackenzie was the most on the fence person. John and I locked eyes and we like mouthed at each other. We were like, Danny, you may have been able to convince John. I think you probably would have. And if John votes Brady, Mackenzie votes Brady. The only reason Mackenzie voted for you was because John and I were.
I know, and see, that's why I need some time, because I was like, I need to cash in. I need to go on to chaos.
Well, and it was also because me and Mackenzie were beside each other, so like we were able to mouth things to each other, whereas John was on the opposite end and Jamie was on the opposite end. So it was like there's just no communication to be able to plan things. Tyler did try to get me to vote Brady, though. He mouthed me multiple times, vote Brady.
Because he's like, no talking. And I knew people were talking. And I was like, I can't talk because if I start talking, I'm going to get in trouble. So it was hard. You
Well,
just,
and it
like,
didn't
gotta
help
hope
that
for
the
best.
three of y'all were in the middle.
Yeah.
So, like, you couldn't, like, reach those extremities.
We just held hands.
Yeah.
In your parting words, are they directed to anyone, or is this simply the stir the pot?
I think it was to stir the pot. I originally said, like, my original speech had I gotten up because when I got voted off, I got 3 votes. There's a high likelihood that it could have come from Tyler and John. And I was upset because I was like, I have this heavy secret on you guys, and I've been working with you and advocating for you guys to be in this game. So why am I being taken out at this point? But, you know, I don't have 100% certainty. It wasn't 4-1. Like, I don't know for sure one of them turned on me. And I like Tyler. I don't want to screw Tyler over. So I ditched the speech to, like, expose the brothers. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to tell them to, like, play hard. I'm not going to be a bitter juror. That was very truthful. But I also then throw a little shade and I'm like, some of you guys need to wake up and start playing the game. I will say a little of that may have been targeted at Rachel, and not because she wasn't playing the game, but because I wanted to leave, giving her a little bit of, like, ignition in the, like, tank to be like, girl, keep going and win. Like, I'm going to be advocating for you, like, play hard. And I really feel like it was also a little bit towards Big Mac because I was upset that, like, even though he had something to play this round, he decided not to play in the round. He didn't participate in the strategy portion of it. And I'm like, there's a point where he could have been doing stuff to line him up to maybe do better once the dust settles. So I don't know. I was hoping that just, like, maybe lit up the game on my way out.
I have a quick question about this revote. Do we know why Jamie did not vote Rachel on the revote?
I don't know. And honestly, I'm Jamie's bounty. So not getting the votes to cash in on me, I was, like, surprised about that. But I think it was kind of obvious that in the revote, Tyler was, like, trying to mouth things to other people, and it may have gotten across that it was Brady. I also think Jamie might have just read the room and saw that it was probably just between us two.
I think Jamie has Rachel as a bounty at this point.
No, it's me. Picked me as the bounty.
Oh, that's right.
That was probably right. I probably just remembered wrong.
Yeah, because like if
that was
Jamie
crazy.
votes for you, Jamie gets 4 keys. The question is, when does that key transfer happen? Would Jamie then, like, go to the vote and say, "Can I have my keys for voting out Danny, please?"
It probably would have happened at that voting booth because I literally, when I'm, like, being eliminated, I thought I was gonna go give my final words. The first thing out of one of their mouths, no, they're literally like, "How many keys do you have? Like, if somebody voted for you, like, what are your keys? Like, we got to get that all sorted out." But then they were like, "Oh, Jamie didn't even vote for you," so it didn't matter.
Yeah, so Jamie has a key. Jamie would have been up to 5 keys then.
Yes.
For the second round. That would have 5-6 chance of potentially just being safe, saying, "Hey,"
and I think they would have played them because Jamie knew that revote was going to come down to Jamie versus Rachel, with Tyler's name also being pitched on the second vote.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'll go ahead.
I'll ask Jamie about that later. I guess the only other thing I can think of that I want to talk about this first tribal is there's a theme this season of people not bringing their advantages with them, and it drives me crazy, right? Mainly, Mackenzie doesn't bring her challenge advantage to that third immunity challenge. Order then gets brutalized. Brady does not bring her keys to the voting booth, and that then causes all sorts. I mean, imagine, yes, Brady plays the keys. Brady gets a vote. I mean, eventually, because I don't think John gets in any trouble for this vote against Brady. You yourself, Danny's like, you're like, I'm voting no matter what. And so you even have that 4th key, and you're just like, do I do anything? Nope, can't. You have to go back. I don't know.
Because I also feel like, first off, crazy. Brady, you're crazy for not being like, I'm walking back and grabbing the keys, because your name was out there like hotcakes. Like, Tyler was really pushing that. And with 5 keys, like, this is also, mind you, for context for everybody, at the start of the day is when the whole Brady dilemma about, oh, I'm going to play my keys instantly when the Femme tribe lost, and was bluffing about having 6 keys. So this entire day, Brady has been talking about these keys. And then to forget it, when you're going to the voting booth, I'm like, this is the place. This is like the one place those keys work. There are no other locks anywhere else, love.
And yeah, it just felt like such a missed opportunity. It's like, okay, so you didn't play the keys at Final 9, right? So you caught votes, right? And tied and could have gone home. And then you're like, I'm playing the keys at 7. Everyone's like, yeah, Brady's playing the keys at 7. So Brady catches no votes then. And almost like could have just saved them at that point, thinking like, hey, like reverse psychology. Everyone caught votes. They think I'm gonna play it. I'm now not gonna play it. This is such a rough go for Brady.
Oh my god!
But it's funny.
Oh my god, I would have loved if Brady was like, I didn't play any of the keys, or I only played one. I didn't vote, and I don't have a keys, so whatever. But that was crazy. And then you get Mackenzie going up and playing a single shot in the dark. Like, first off,
Well,
kudos
first
to
we need
her.
to talk about the fallout from this vote.
Oh yeah,
Because
Double
Which
back.
you only heard until that you got to see the episode.
so yeah, we've just had this thing where it's like Big Matt versus me, Brady, and Tyler. But honestly, like it felt like me, Brady, and Tyler were fighting for ourselves individually and not as a group. Like I think we were each just more offended that Matt came for us as an individual instead of as a group, because Tyler gets called a snake, which is great. So we have all that. And then immediately after, Brady and Tyler get into it because Tyler voted for Brady. John voted for Brady initially, did not vote for her on the revote, because I guess John didn't realize how much of an option you were, Danny. I don't know. So then they get into it, and it's so funny because everybody's up and talking in these groups, and they're like yelling at each other over the groups that are like huddled up whispering. It's so funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, because my takeaway from I remember when I was watching this from the shed with Melanie, like again, all I saw was the Tyler versus Brady. I'm like, man, they're gonna go for each other, aren't they? But then watching this episode, it's Tyler versus Brady, but we see these small pockets form and discuss, and we see Jamie's name begin to get disseminated through these conversations.
Yeah. Something that was definitely discussed, I know for a fact, at least between myself and Mackenzie and between myself and John, and I'm sure other people discussed it as well, was, Brady and Tyler are actively gunning for each other. There is no point in voting either of them out.
Yeah.
Because
let
we
them
know
fight while you
their
guys
target
can
are.
discuss, and we see that go down. And it was just hilarious because they bring it into the groups, and you can visibly see you guys being annoyed, being like, we're still going to try and play the game. Like, keep that over there.
It's like,
So
yeah,
it's
you see
funny to
there's
see 'em go at it.
one discussion where it's like me, John, or me, John, and Rachel, and we're like, so are you guys all comfortable with going Jamie? And we're like, yeah. And then Brady walks up and she's like, I want Tyler gone. And we're like, okay.
People done.
Like, we can do that later, sure.
Oh my god.
Did you know Mackenzie was going to play her shot in the dark?
I knew. Yeah, I think she told me. I think she told John. I don't think, to my knowledge, Mackenzie, you can clarify. She told me she said, I cannot vote for Jamie. Like, I would feel morally bad backstabbing someone who I felt that close with. So Mackenzie told me and John at a minimum that she was playing a single key and that she did not care if it worked or not.
Smart move. I mean, we saw that happen with Matthew in season 44. Yeah, like that's a smart move. If you don't want to vote and it's going to be worse for your game, like take the shot. And honestly, the fact that it hit, like that's even better. That's the move you want to happen.
And so Jamie's name, John's the one that initially gets Jamie's name going. That second round, it seems.
No. So Rachel was independently going for Jamie. Obviously, we see that. But also, it was kind of a consensus where me, John, Rachel, Mackenzie, Tyler are a group of 5. We know Brady and Tyler are going for each other, and we know Brady's going to play keys. So it's like, who's left to vote for?
Yeah.
That's literally what it was. Like, it was me and John putting up fingers and saying, like, okay, you can't vote me, can't vote Matt because he played keys. Brady's going to play keys. Tyler's useless to vote out right now because Brady's going to gun for him. We want to keep Rachel in. We're not voting Mackenzie. Like it just came down to
you're looking at you too.
Yeah, I'm like, well, John, and I'm not voting John because John at this point, like my number one ally alongside Mackenzie. So that literally leaves one person. So
Dang.
Can we talk about all the goodies John gets this episode at the voting booth?
Are we in the same voting booth as him? I swear they stocked it before he arrived.
I went 5
What is
times.
going on?
I never found the key that was hidden beneath the lip of the wood. And then John comes like, boom, 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 boom. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
And where did the bounty swap come from? He's pulling out packages. I'm like, where's the idol? Where's the idol here?
Where are the idols this season?
No,
we just really suck looking for them. What can I say?
Yeah, I also remember now what John was trying to do. So John and I had discussed before that second vote. We were like, well, what if Jamie plays something? So John and I's plan were both of us vote Jamie so we can be true to our word. We combine keys and John throws a second vote on someone. Now, John would not tell me who he was going to vote for. He was like, don't worry about it. I have not figured out who I'm voting for. Just know that it won't be you. It won't, well, obviously it couldn't be me, but he was like, it won't be you, Mackenzie, Rachel, or Tyler. And I'm like, okay, well, if the other vote's on Jamie, that leaves Brady, and that's it. So I kind of like deduced that he was going to throw his second vote on Brady. He gets to the voting booth. He doesn't have enough to vote for Brady. He ends up giving me my key back because he was like, yeah, I couldn't use it. I didn't have enough. I lost a key. So here's the key back.
Thank God. Thank God.
So he gives me a key back, which was nice.
I mean, the picture of him like taking his shoes off, shaking his shoes out, I'm just like, dude. So we've had 2 lost keys this season, right? Rachel lost a key in the bathroom, and John Shu ate a second key.
Well, and don't forget, I'm lying to people saying I lost a key. That I don't know. I like watching that. I told production, I was like, yeah, I lost a key, and then 2 seconds later, I'm like, actually, I didn't. But that's what I'm telling people.
You were so committed to it. But
I
they're
forgot.
tiny.
I was like,
justice for everyone. They're tiny.
I was like, yeah, I like forgot that I didn't have to lie about something, and I was like, oh, I just lied to production. I should probably like take that back. I don't know.
Yeah, you're like, I'm in confessional right now. My bad.
Yeah,
Which just to double back, the people walking behind you in confessional was so funny to me. I was laughing so hard in the episode. I just wanted to put that in there.
I was trying to have a heartfelt moment because genuinely I felt like I was going to be voted out pre-merge. In LRGs, this was only my second LRG, and I'm like, historically, I was first boot because I'm loud and I will verbalize my opinion and I'll disagree with people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, genuinely, like, I was just trying to talk about like how shocked I was and how proud of myself I was, and then they were just like standing off to the side, and I'm like, yeah, y'all can walk through. Like, I'm not talking about anything important, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I think something else that we need to talk about is the chunk of the episode that's these Brady trying to figure out how to play keys in the voting booth.
Oh my God. I was like, Brady delivers again on camera. Like, I don't even think intentionally at this point. Like, it's just so funny. First off, forgets the keys the first round, then almost forgets the scrolls. I'm like, do you want to play the keys, Brady? I don't know. Like, I don't know if you actually want to play them.
Trying to convince the host and creator of the game to let you just write a vote because you're mad at Tyler.
She's like, can it be a safety without power? I'm like, she's pulling everything out. And Casey's standing there. Poor Casey. He's like, I don't know if you're being serious or if you're like pulling my leg, but like, no, let's not do that.
She's like, sorry, I've never done this before, and uses that as an excuse to pitch every possible thing that would be against the rules.
My God.
We hear this at one point, but you hear Casey saying like, I think I'm running out of scrolls, and in the shed, Millie and I are frantically making more scrolls for Casey.
I love that. I love you guys behind the scenes, like fixing them all up because everyone wanted to play them that round.
I don't think he anticipated the chaos of a double tribal with this advantage.
Yeah.
Something else that we get during this scramble before the second vote, not to toot my own horn, but when Brady walks up and she's like, he just flipped on us, and I say, well, he flipped on you.
That was another hilarious way to just like shut down the conversation and be like, we're not voting Tyler. Love you, babe. I know you guys are fighting, but like, that's all the more reason why we're not going to get rid of him. Like, are we seriously pitching Tyler right now? Like, that's the vibe I got from it, but it was so funny.
I was like, well, he hasn't wronged me. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to keep working with both of you separately. That's even better. Yeah. I don't have to worry about the two of you teaming up against me. Perfect.
Danny,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll go. That's fine. So that's why you hear me in the second vote. I go up and I'm like laughing in my voting confessional because I'm like, the more drama that's happening, somehow I'm looking better. Because in the first tribal, I felt like I defended myself against Matt pretty well because a lot of that blame kind of got shifted onto Tyler. And then the second round, obviously Tyler and Brady are fighting each other. But then also in that round, because they're fighting, Brady calls out Tyler and my name gets cleared from the Mackenzie thing. So I'm like, I don't know how I end up looking better here, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little earlier, Danny, how when on exit, John says, I didn't vote for you. on the car ride, you learn post to Ponderosa, you learn from Jamie. Jamie voted for Brady at that round, and so
Yeah.
what was your reaction at that
Mm.
time?
I was like, "Ugh, I knew it. Like, I should have trusted my gut. I should have exploded it. Like, I knew he voted for me. Like, you can feel it sometimes. Like, you can just like tell. But I think hearing that Jamie had me as a bounty and then decided not to vote for me, and Tyler was advocating so heavily to like keep me in the game. I just at that point, even in my final words, you see it. Like, I just felt like I played such a good game, and I was happy to get to Ponderosa and not sleep in the wet tent that we had set up. So it was like kind of one of those moments where you're just like, well, at least I know what happened to me. They had to take me out in a crazy thing. I know this episode's going to be crazy, but it was one of those moments where I maybe felt better about my decision because I was like, dang, if I did blow that up, would I want like to see Tyler come just following me right out the door or however it would have shook out? Like, I think it was more of a like, what is it? I got clarity. That's what I'm looking for. I got clarity on this whole situation.
Yeah, hindsight is 2020. Unfortunately, there are a lot of
But then I
things.
knew
that
I could be
we
on the
knew.
jury. So I was like, I was happy. I finally got to wear that blue dress I was like harping on about the entire time. And I was like, I'm excited to still be a part of the game in a way. Like, I wasn't going to be bitter. I'm excited to be on the jury. I'm excited to see who makes it to the final and who, like, how they pitch their cases. But it's definitely going to be interesting.
So in the episode before this one, we hear from Little Matt that he is looking at Mackenzie and myself as the people who he would like to see do well. We hear from you that you are pro Rachel and that Rachel is mother, which is literally and also not literally
She's a
true.
mother.
Like, she is a mother, but also she is
She's
mother.
also a mother. Yeah. With or without the article.
Who else of these? So obviously, by the time you did your final words, you knew Jamie was out. Rachel.
This is a description of from earlier.
That's hilarious. Danny, who else of the final 7 were you maybe looking as potential people that you would like to see in the end, or hoping they maybe would make it to the end?
Yeah. I think definitely Rachel was my number one. Like, that's who I was rooting for. I really was trying to give her like all of the pep talk I could, even in that round where we're like running back and forth, trying to plan before the double. Like, I'm trying to like reinvigorate her because I think you hit it on the head when you said earlier she was just, the rain really took it out of her. And whether that was Rachel playing it up to be like not somebody that people wanted to look at early at the merge, or whether that was her genuine response to the rain, because I know she said she was not an outdoorsy person. I was rooting for her. Like, I'm hard for Rachel. I was rooting for her hard on the jury. So that's who I'd like to see get to the end. Tyler is somebody I'd like to see get to the end. That's part of the reason why I didn't blow up his game. I knew if I called out like John, it's only going to end up calling out Tyler and possibly hurting his game. So I was happy to see
I don't think
win.
Tyler's game could get much more hurt than it was after this episode.
I know, like, I didn't need to do any more damage. Like, if I was like, oh, and they're brothers, I'm just dooming him to follow me out. So I was really rooting hard for Tyler, and I feel like I wanted to see more from a lot of people, and I was very open to like voting for a lot of people, but I was a little bit ticked off at Mackenzie for flipping on me, John for flipping on me. You voted for me. Like, Big Matt, I felt like wasn't really doing a lot at that point. But I also didn't see a lot of his like early game, and now seeing it in the episodes, I feel like I'm rooting for him more as a viewer in retrospect.
It was interesting hearing Jamie's parting words, because Jamie is down on 2 players. Drew, as we discussed before, feeling that Drew unfairly said like, hey, you can't win. And then Jamie is also fairly upset with John at this point for feeling like, hey, I was an ally for you, but this was not reciprocated and I was voted out.
Which is a good move on Mackenzie, because if Mackenzie had joined in on that vote, then Jamie may have said the same thing that they said about John about Mackenzie. So
yeah, and so I guess just tracking jury so far, we have 2 people on jury. John, that has talked about John. Both Matt and Jamie have been like, I'm not happy with John at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, those were sentiments that were shared amongst the jury when we had all like got out together. And then there was also like, I think we hit on it in like the final words with Jamie when they were saying they were upset about Drew. Like, they were upset about it. Like, I took a lot of the brunt of it because I was the person that was eliminated with Jamie. So we were sequestered together that night. We were there the next morning. So I'm hearing all about the game after the fact. And coming in that day, like they just were like not a huge fan of it. And honestly, it's that missing context that Drew had with them, where it was like Drew was saying that as a way to not get votes on Jamie, but Jamie's only hearing that conversation. Similarly, like when we're under the tarp. So it was one of those like crossing of like connections that is either going to be fixed when somebody joins Ponderosa or we're at that final tribal council. So it just was bubbling up that day.
Yeah, and in my head, I knew, I was like, okay, I had good jury management with Matt. Kim, I have no idea where Kim is at, and I was like, I could tell Jamie in that scramble before the second vote that there was something off with us. I just couldn't figure out what it was, and I was like, Jamie's really mad at me about something. And I was like, Danny's against me as well. So I was like, I might have some work to do with the jury here. That's okay.
Whoops.
That's okay. You know what? Things happen. And we'll see what develops. Anything else from this episode before we get into some logistical things? I'm trying to think if there's anything we didn't cover.
I feel like we've tapped out the episode. I mean, I just want to get in confident. Like, this is probably one of my favorite episodes.
Yep.
I've had just from like both the music perspective on top of the editing and just the insanity of this tribal council. I mean, you even see Casey's kind of like jaw drops just watching this live tribal erupt. And I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of live tribals, but like this was definitely deserving. It was just like, you know, all the plans are out the door at this point. Everyone's like, what is happening?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, so good.
The rain took it out of Mackenzie and Rachel and made the rest of us want to fight, apparently. So
there's a point where like the scramble ends and Casey's standing there and there's literal actual crickets like after it, I guess, like out in the field. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, cut the music at this point. This is great. The fact that all of this happened at night, like it was just a stellar episode all around.
Yeah, the lighting from the fire.
Yeah, so cool.
Okay, well, let's get into some logistical stuff. Let's talk about favorite quotes. And I will say this has been by far the most difficult episode to come up with a favorite quote. I'll start. I have two. Hopefully I don't steal anyone's.
I totally forgot to think about this as I was watching the episode.
My first one is after Danny is voted out and Brady and Tyler go at it, and then they like separate for a minute. We hear like pieces of other discussions, and then Tyler says, Brady, can we talk? And Brady just goes, no, and turns around. My second one is one that John actually mentioned to me today, and I had this one on my list, but like rewatching it, it was so funny. It's after Brady is playing her keys and drawing the scrolls and everything, and she's just very unserious about it, and then at the end she just goes, up top, big guy. And I'm like, that's the host. What are you doing?
Oh my god, so
those
funny.
are mine.
Do you want to go, Steven?
I mean, I should have been paying more attention. I think it's just Brady just going like, but you voted for me, and Tyler like trying to say, well, but actually, but really, but Brady's like, but you voted for me, just like you did it.
Oh my god, yeah, I have two, and they're both from Brady. I mean, are we surprised?
Perfect.
The quotable queen of the episode. I loved when Brady was talking, I forget who she was talking with, but it was about Matt back at camp, and she's like, he's just fucking eating fruits and vegetables back at camp. Like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, that was very true, and I love that it panned to like him with the like fruits and veggie tray, because like it just fit so perfectly. So that had me laughing. And then the other one, which was kind of like a smaller moment from Brady, but I thought was so funny, was at Tribal Council, the one that like I went out on. Matt called everybody out, and Brady at one point goes, I don't run the game, I run my mouth. And I thought that was so funny, because I was like, that's so true. I was like, that's a great way to get out of being called like you're running the game. It's something funny, and it was like quick, like, and witty. So like I think that just spoke to Brady's character, and I thought that was so funny.
I also love the interaction between myself and Matt, where Matt's eating the vegetables and I get a bell pepper and I'm like, oh, I want whipped cream cheese. And he's like, there's butter. And I like make a joke about like, oh yeah, let me dip this raw broccoli in butter. And then I like turn around and it pans to him and he's just like, haha. Just so over it. He's like, he's like, yeah, haha, you're probably about to vote for me. Funny. Okay, let's get into our Bloomy points, our players of the week. And I am prefacing with I'm doing something weird with my points this week. So both of you should go first.
Wow, this is unusual. Normally, I'm the one going off script.
It's true.
Yeah, so there was a lot of messy play this week. A lot of players do not come out looking good. I'm going to give my 1 point to Mackenzie for the foresight to decide to not vote and play her shot in the dark that second round. I think, your vote is everything Survivor, and knowing when to not vote is an interesting conundrum we're going to see players take more advantage of. I think that was a good spot to do it in for her. And she was immune, so it worked out even better.
Yeah.
So I'll give 1 point to Mackenzie for kind of that insight into knowing how Jamie will react and perceive her on the jury as a result of that.
Danny?
I am going to give my 1 point to Rachel. I think that's mother. And I want to give maybe her social game a little bit more credit than the episodes have been, and maybe just shine some light onto Rachel's game. I think she had a lot more agency than had been shown like in her conversations with people. She's someone that a lot of people took really seriously. And she's also someone that people consistently say that they're just like going to brush under the rug. But I really do feel like Rachel's positioned herself in a great spot socially. She's watching some of the power structures really like break down, and her relationship with John is paying off in droves at the merge from what she did. When Rachel was able to get herself out of a spot that she probably should have gone with Steven, Matt, and John, like I think her consistent tenacity to still stay in the game deserves a Bloomy.
Yeah, I had a discussion with Rachel via text yesterday, and I think I responded about this in the YouTube comments as well. Rachel's playing a really defensive game because throughout the entire pre-merge, she sets up all of these social relationships and alliances that all she has to do at this point is just defend herself when her name comes up and have her allies, who are these big personalities, fight it for her so she doesn't have to. And that's great social play.
Is she your 1 point?
I will be doing mine after y'all finish.
Oh, okay.
All right, so for my 2 points, I'm going to go Rachel. I think looking at the Jamie vote out, I think, Danny, you were beneficial for Rachel's game, but I think of everyone, Jamie was the most detrimental to Rachel's game. And so who was voting for Rachel over tribal council and who probably kept continuing voting for Rachel over tribal council? That was Jamie. I think having Jamie gone is helpful because it's going to hopefully keep her name out, because I think Rachel has been under fire these past. Honestly, she's been under fire since the swap, right? She was in the minority. I voted for her. She swaps to this new tribe. She's under fire there. Either her, Brady, or going on. Probably her. If Brady plays 5 shots in the darks. Jamie votes for the merge. Jamie votes for her more time. She gets in that 1-1 deadlock. She has gone through it, but I think Jamie leaving is very good for her game, and that she's solidly in this alliance of 5. Let's see how she can maneuver from there.
Yeah, it also helps Rachel that people are viewing her as like this just extra number. It's like, well, what's the most important thing in Survivor? Numbers. So it's not like she's on the block to be chopped. She's the backup name we've seen, but
and we know that at least one jury member is very pro Rachel. So
yep.
Woo! And it's not Kim, surprisingly. Right. I'm just kidding. I know she's pro Rachel too.
Danny, who are your 2 points for?
I am going to give my 2 points to Tyler. I think I owe him 2 points and 2 Bloomies from this entire season. I think Tyler, as much as this was a very bad episode for him, Tyler is still finding himself in a spot where he's connected to a majority alliance of 5. He has this like outward emotional spat with Brady. And one thing about emotional players is they become predictive. So Tyler is not a predictable player, and he can maybe use that to like hide in the future. But Tyler did a lot of advocacy work for keeping me in the game, and I feel like Tyler is not getting enough flowers for the game that he's been playing. I feel like Tyler's also somebody that like socially is very aware of where everybody stands in the tribe. He has a lot of connections, but I think where he's struggling is to like get those moves of his own over the finish line without overcompensating like with the Brady keys. So shocking one, I'm going to give Tyler 2.
Shocking. I agree. Shocking. What about your 3 points, Danny?
But my 3 points are going to have to go to Brady. I think for as crazy as this episode is, there's no reason Brady should still be in the game. doesn't play the vote like keys at the first vote, is in a 1-to-1-to-1 tie, possibly goes home, somehow stays. Brady then gets into a verbal argument with one of the other people who has just been called out as their closest ally. Brady's also somebody at this point in the game who is being seen as like a vocal person. Like everyone knows that Brady is making these like loud moves, but I think we saw a lot of agency in Brady's game and a good read on the game. There's a point where Brady literally predicts 3 things that happen in the future in a confessional, and it shows like the read that Brady has on the game. I think this point forward is going to be separating that emotional part and not falling down that rabbit of like, Tyler is my like narrow focus, because if we look at the field, Tyler should not be her focus. It should be those like group of 5 that's forming without her. So we'll see what she can do next episode.
Brady was so fun this episode. I said this in the group chat and in the live chat on the episode, but this whole episode was a Brady serve-a-thon, because it was just Brady after Brady after Brady after Brady, and every moment.
And that's why I have to give Brady the 3 bloomies, because I'm like, if Brady wasn't in this episode, y'all gonna say it's as good. Like Brady was delivering comedy, delivering drama, and when there is no drama, there's no entertainment. So thank you, Brady, for making this episode so fun.
Steven.
Yeah, so honorable mentions. John comes out looking great in this episode, in the sense that he's +2 keys, plus an advantage that we know he does not like people having his bounty, so he can get that off of him. So I think his name is not really being considered, because he's solidly in this alliance that he's, from what I can see, helped form along with Drew. And so there's a lot of good things about John. Honorable shout out to the Big Matt for playing the shots in the dark and just like being able to get through this episode, though I wish there had been maybe more proactive in sense of like how will you shape the strategy around you using this advantage. I think at this point he's just let the world burn, and we'll see what he does from there. But my 3 will go to Drew, and I'm gonna give it to Drew for the proactiveness of casting his vote onto you, Danny, for saying like, there's a chance that it will be and we saw this again in the previous tribal council where he cast his vote as well, and the fact that like this, we're in the era of the shot in the dark, immunity can hit, and let's not all group vote. And so I think that was good foresight to put it on someone that you will be able to rally people onto voto afterwards, and you want him done to begin with. So I thought it worked out very well for you this episode. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm kind of surprised. I feel so. Let me just break down what I'm doing with my points, because I typically will not allocate points to someone who is eliminated in the episode unless I feel like they did something like super outstanding that like a just move like weirdly backfired on them or something. So I'm looking at the final 7. We have 6 points total. So I've given 1 point to each of 6 different people who I think had good things happen this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So without being too repetitive with what you guys have already said, I'm giving 1 point to Brady, because Brady was able to pull off not only not getting voted out in the tie, but also being the most entertaining person in the episode, knowing that she probably needs to play those 5 keys at the second vote. I think Brady, like Danny said, made this episode. I'm giving 1 point to myself for being the one who made the move on Danny, as well as coming out of the arguments that I was involved in with Big Matt, as well as the argument about bringing Mackenzie's name up. I come out of both of those looking very good.
And you win immunity.
Yeah, and I won immunity. That's true. I'm giving 1 point to John for being the only person this episode whose name was not brought up at any time, and for being pretty ingrained, and for finding those 2 extra keys. I'm giving a point for Rachel for knowing how to play an under-the-radar social game correctly, and for getting the person who's targeting them out in Jamie. I'm giving 1 point to Matt for pulling off the shot in the dark and negating the majority of the votes. Even though I don't think Matt comes out of this episode looking particularly good, he played his advantage correctly. And finally, I'm giving a point to Mackenzie for the jury management of Jamie, and for not getting any votes despite her name having come up this episode. So that is where my points are going.
You got my hopes up thinking you're going to give me a Bloomy.
Yeah.
I am sat here like Oscar snubbed.
You could have changed your points and given you 3 points there. You had all the power to do
Yeah,
that.
actually, I'm taking it back, Brady. I'm taking your 3 Bloomies.
That's hilarious. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Looking at the final 7, Tyler's game this round just destroyed. Like, social game is completely wrecked, and we'll see how he's able to recover from that. And that's the only reason I was like, every single other person of the final 7 came out of this round either having pulled off something major or leaves the round looking better than they came in, except for Tyler.
And that's strange because that has not happened in this game yet. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays from a new position. Because will his brother help him or will he watch him drown?
Yeah, it's like while Brady and Matt, I think, also come out of this round looking worse than when they had gone in. Both of them were able to pull off big moves. So,
can I ask you all a question? So, what rounds do you think are the most important rounds for shaping a jury's perspective of your game?
9, 7, 5, 4.
9, 7, 5, and 4. I would say the merge vote's also really important, but maybe not for jury management.
Jury management has to be 24/7. That's the side of the game. Like, when you're even back at camp and you're not playing the game, that's when you need to be talking about like real life and getting the people to connect with you. So like that's 24/7 for jury management.
Yeah, I think for jury management, it's the whole time, which is why you see like me, Tyler, Brady be stressed about Jamie coming back the round prior. It's because like we did not expect to have to do jury management that early in the game, because usually pre-merge, the people who you vote out, you can kind of just forget about, essentially, because they don't have any impact on your future game.
True.
You know what I meant?
True. Like they're not a part of the jury, but
yeah, you don't have to worry about them impacting your game.
Yes.
You can, you don't have to worry as much about your impact on them in the game.
I guess I asked this question because, we're in a small merge, right? Generally, let's say we merge at 13. There's a lot of merge gameplay that can help define and shape how people perceive you and the story you're going to sell. But when you merge at 10, right, and we just went from 9 to 7, I guess I feel personally that 9, 8, 7 are such pivotal rounds in defining who you are to other players in your game style. And like by the time you get to 5, yes, 5 and 4 are pivotal in terms of making it to the end, but I feel like people kind of have now some more set perceptions unless something radically changes, which I don't feel happens as much.
Yeah, and those early jurors also, that like the heads of the jury can really influence perception because they are getting to talk to every single person who comes in after them.
And I think that's why we saw the game take like its dial up to 11 this round, because we saw, it's a double. Like the next is going to be 7. So if it's not already turned up now and you can't at least have 4 people moving in after this double with you, the game is quickly passing you by. Like there's only limited amount of time to make these moves. And for outside perspective, there's 1 day left. The rest of the episodes are in 1 day.
I mean, this is a long day for you, Danny.
Oh, God help me. Like I started talking at the like tribal council and said like I was crying at Kim's for a different reason. Now I'm crying at my elimination. Like it was a long, long, long day. I want immunity. It's raining. People are scrambling. We had food. We were scrambling eggs, which burned. But like it was a long day. So I think that's part of why I processed it very quickly and was able to just be like, oh, I have a bed. I'm on the jury. It's all good, everybody. Like, I can't be too upset. So,
yeah, I have 2 things. One, not caught on camera. It's possible this is discussed briefly in the next episode, but I don't feel bad talking about it because it's not like a plot point. So we get back to camp after this vote and we're all like wet rats, like hungry, and we have leftover from the merge feast. We have like bread, bacon, cheese, butter, but it's all been sitting out all day. And so we all decide, like, well, not all of us, we were like, let's just make grilled cheese. Like, we don't care. This cheese and butter have been sitting out all day. Let's just do it. So we make grilled cheese, and Rachel the whole time is freaking out. Like her inner mom comes out. She's like, we cannot have dairy. It's been sitting out all day. Like you guys are all going to get sick and I'm going to win by default because you're all going to be medevac for food poisoning tomorrow.
I'd be third.
So that was really fun. But Danny, everyone in the comments is dying to know, what was the first thing you ate after getting voted out?
That's so weird. It was literally McDonald's, and I never eat McDonald's, and we had the weirdest experience ever. So just to not even get into the whole thing, we like pull up to this McDonald's, and the guy is like, I swear we were on Punked or something. We're asking for Pepsi, and he's like, we don't carry that stuff. Like, we only have Coke. And then he was like telling us to, yeah, Mackenzie knows. Like, it was insane. I thought we were being like punked. So honestly, just another reason to stay away from McDonald's. And I don't know what I expect when I went to a McDonald's in Indiana. Like, the Indie animals were out.
With that being said, anything else about this episode before we head out for the evening?
I think that this sets up a crazy end game for everybody. I think it's dialed up the game. And if people are not awake, like I said, they need to wake up now. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out. I don't really know what happens back at camp from here on out.
Yeah, Danny, without spoiling any specifics, what's something that we can look forward to as viewers for the season to come?
I think throw out your expectations as to what you think are coming in the end game. We as super fans were even blindsided as to what's to come. So I say keep on your toes, keep watching the episodes, and I think it's still a wide open game for anybody in the final 7.
Yep. Instead of Final 4 fire making, we're actually doing Final 7 fire making, where the 4 losers are just immediately cut.
Yeah.
When you have a game like this, you're like, all right, we need to go from 7 to, let's say, 2 in the span of 10 hours. A 4-person elimination gets you there.
I will say, prior to this season, I was on Casey. I was like, Casey, is it Final 4 fire making, or is it a vote? Is it Final 4? And he was like, who's to say? And I'm like, okay.
So, minor spoilers for Survivor Angelica, the most recent season. Close your ears or mute it. So they have a Final 4 fire making, and everyone's like fire making. And then it's like, but then like it's a fire puzzle, so they make a fire out of the puzzle. And so the players were just like, huh, it's not what we were expecting, kind of laughing at it on the big reveal. So
that's hilarious.
I don't remember because I watched it like really recently. I was kind of skipping through. Did they reveal before that it was a puzzle? Because remember, something crazy happens.
No, they reveal like
crazier because
Final 4, like they bring the 2 players over and it's like here's the fire puzzle. They're and like
because you know what happened right before that, right?
Whole season.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy because imagine when the person makes that move without spoiling what happens, and then they get there and they're not good at that type of fire building.
Like so, like it was. No. It could have been a lot worse, but wild ending, a season worth watching.
Yeah.
Well, if that is all we have, I believe the next episode of Surviving Bloomington will come out. I think right now we're looking at the 30th, so next Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, make sure you follow and subscribe to Surviving Bloomington on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The cast for season 7 has been revealed as well. So make sure you honestly just go to Google and type in Surviving Bloomington and it'll bring you to the website. And you can see the cast for season 7. Danny, will you be helping out with season 7 at all? Will you be around?
I mean, we'll see what the future holds. I definitely wouldn't say no. I could even just come down for the weekend to come help out. But I do recognize a few people on the season 7 cast and will be sending some love their way via donations. But I just hope that they build on the legacy that Casey started. And I'm excited to see if they can live up to the chaos and drama that we've started in our episodes.
Yeah, so definitely look into the season 7 cast. Donate to your favorites. Help them get the advantages. And also don't forget to follow and subscribe to Live Reality Games on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the places. And with that being said, we hope you all have a good evening and we'll see you in the future.
Bye.
Bye. Take care, y'all.